Plant reproduction. Reproduction is the process through which living beings produce new members of their own species. Plants can reproduce in two ways. Asexual reproduction is when new plants form from stems, leaves, or the roots of their parents. Sexual reproduction is through seeds. So the flower produces the fruit has seeds, and the seeds germinate and produce the new plant. So the flower is the main unit for sexual reproduction in a plant. The main parts of a flower are sepals, petals, stamen, and pistils. These parts are crowded together at the tip of the stem, and it's called the receptacle. The flower parts are arranged in the form of cycles or whorls. There are 4 whorls of flower parts. First whorl, an outer calyx consisting of sepals. Inside this, the second whorl or the corolla. This consists of petals. The third whorl is the andrecium or the group of stamens, and the center or the fourth whorl is the gynoecium, which consists of the pistils. The sepals are the green leaf-like parts in the outermost circle of a flower. The sepals together make up the calyx of the flower. Inside the sepals are the petals, and they are the attractive part of the flower so that they attract insects. The petals together make up the corolla of the flower. The female part of the flower is called the pistil, and it's right in the middle. This contains a sticky top part called the stigma, which is attached to a long tube called the style. The stigma is the area that receives the pollen. The style pulls it down right up to the ovaries, where it can meet the ovules and fertilize them. The male part of the flower is called the stamen. It consists of an anther, which is the upper part, which produces the pollen grains, and a long filament which holds up the anther. The stamens form the layer called the andrecium, and that's just outside the gynoecium. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from the anther of a stamen to the stigma of a pistil. And what happens after that? The pollen contains the male gametes. The ovules contain the female gametes. So when one male gamete fuses with a female gamete, it's called fertilization. That's when a seed is formed. Self-pollination is when the pollen from one flower goes and gets stuck onto the stigma of the same flower. It's called self-pollination. It can either be in the same flower or another flower on the same plant. Essentially, the genetic material is the same. But cross-pollination is when the pollen from one flower of one plant goes and gets pollinated or goes and gets stuck onto the stigma of another flower of another plant. So it's different genetic material. Now, there are certain vehicles that help in pollination. One of them is insects. Now, certain flowers are pollinated by insects, and these have to be really bright and attractive, and they contain nectar, and some of them have a very good scent, like jasmine. The stamens are inside the flower, so the insect can rub against the anther. The pollens are large and sticky, so they can stick onto the body of the insect and be carried to another flower. Example: banyan, banana, sunflower, marigold, bougainvillea, and jasmine. Pollination by wind. The flowers are not bright or attractive. They do not have a good scent or nectar because they don't have to attract insects. They have a large number of light pollen. Female flowers have spreading, feathery, long stigmas to catch the pollen. Examples are rice, maize, grass, sugarcane, bamboo, and palms. Water-pollinated plants have flowers that produce pollen in large amounts. The pollen should be lightweight The water current moves the male flowers to the female flowers so that they get in contact with each other and the pollen gets transmitted. Example, Hydrilla vallisneria, water lily.